Greetings from Goblin Valley, Nissedal, Norway. I'm here as usual, so you don't have to be. A lot of people have asked me to revisit the Entheon RDA from Psyclone mods since I published my airflow footage and airflow stills in my mock-up RDA chamber. And this will be that revisit, the review of the Entheon revisited. But I will say at once, I will not show you any footage, and here is why. I started out today to build a new air chamber, a true scale copy of the Entheon. And in order to do that, I had to make a lot of measurements of the air holes and flowing paths and all that stuff. And I suddenly realized it's a matter of geometry and mathematics. We can solve this on paper. And that is what this video is about. I hope it's not nearly as long as the other ones. And I will come with a few suggestions that a lot of you will not like. And well, that won't bring me down, because my son has just released his first album with his band, Sjøgress, meaning seaweed. And he has put his first pen stroke on this world, and I couldn't be happier, and nothing will bring me down. So without any hesitation, let's go to close-up and look at the schematics. Let's start from the top. First, you get a lot of drip tip options with the Entheon, from really big over 8 mm diameter choices to adapter allowing you your 510 drip tips that are only 5 mm in diameter. Now the square measurements of this will of course be over 24 square millimeters, and this being only about 16 square millimeters. And those numbers are actually quite important, and I will be using this through the rest of this video. So here you have the opening represented by the biggest drip tip, and thank Psyclone Mods for providing all the drip tip options. This is 8 mm in diameter approximately, which gives us approximately 25 mm squared as the surface of that circle. The next thing I measured was the air hole on the barrel. You have one on each side. I took those measurements and discovered that they are about 21 millimeters squared together. So what's that? 10.5 square millimeter each. And I took the measurements of the 4 airflow channels you have on the inside of your chamber. And by adding that up, again this number occurred: 21 millimeter squared, divided on 4 different air holes around the inner chamber. The second measurements I did was the center block in the RDA. That was 7 millimeters high and 7 millimeters across. It was also 7 millimeters deep. Now here you see the squonking hole on the center block. It's a very deep well. You have a lot of fluid in it. And above the well, you up to the top of the clamps, because these that side up to the top of the clamps also makes a well when you have cotton in your coil, because the cotton in your coil is making blocks this box on the sides, and then you have a 7 millimeter by 7 millimeter by 7 millimeter box that opens upward to your drip tip. When I realized this number 21 and 21, and I looked at this number 7 millimeters across, and I knew that this was 7 millimeters deep, I suddenly saw a pattern. Because I remembered telling you I was building myself a, sorry for the red color, I was building a coil being 5 millimeter in diameter. Mine was actually 5.2. And I placed it up here. I told you to place it very high up, because I told you in the review the air was going like this in a straight line up to the drip tip. I was 100% wrong. I say it again, wrong, wrong, wrong. Please watch my airflow and coil placement tutorial to see the footage of the airflow and understand how airflow in a vacated chamber work when there is pressure from the outside going straight in. I was very, very wrong, but that actually saved me. And I will explain to you why it saved me. What happens when you build like this? It actually is a solution for you if you want to build big coils on this RDA. I have been talking with other people in other forums, and we agree on this principle now that we understand airflow, because there is pressure from all outside. When you suck, and you know suck is not a force, then there is pressure from outside and it will shoot in a straight line, no matter where you suck from. So in order to have optimal placement of your coil, the airstream should hit the coil at 3 and 9 o'clock. It differs. Look at my other airflow videos. When you have different airflows coming in from different places and multiple coils and stuff like that. Okay, but in principle you want the airflow to hit here and be carried around by the Coanda effect. As you see, a 5 millimeter coil cannot be hit correctly because it touches the center block. And the solution was to place the coil high. I had the correct placement of a big coil for all the wrong reasons. For the thing that happens now is air is just rushing in straight lines. Then you have lots of turbulence, but this turbulence is drifting upwards and sensing the low pressure in the upper chamber. And then you have an airflow around your coil and up, because the air is again organized due to the restriction to pass the coil and go straight up. So with a big coil, yes, you actually should place it high up, but you have to have narrow gaps up here. The problem, however, if you pull this down past this center line, past 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, below the clamps. You can now observe you have 1 millimeter on either side, because this is only 7 millimeters. And being 7 millimeters deep means a total surface where the air can pass of only 14 square millimeters. And that is only 60% of the airflow that this RDA is capable of. And if you go down further, this area will be a stalemate of airflow. This air will probably not move at all, and you get burnt cotton and burnt e-juice, because this area will get extremely hot because of the lack of circulation, because the pressure will cancel each other out. So wherever you place a 5 millimeter outer diameter coil, you will restrict the airflow immensely from what the RDA is capable of. Only when you put a big coil, so you have a 1.5 millimeter gap on each side, you get flow of air. So you might ask, why does not turbulence cool stuff down? Well, turbulence cools stuff down or heat them up. That's called convection. But the difference between flow and turbulence is like turbulence is going in a room where 30 people are sitting and vaping, and even someone is hanging from the chandelier and blowing vapor down on you. So you will get these puffs of cool air against your face and your arms as you walk across the room. Airflow is like someone hitting a fan, turning a fan on and blow it in your direction. That's the difference between airflow and air turbulence. Now, I do not consider this two-chamber, lower chamber, upper chamber side flow as the optimal solution for this RDA. I have tried it and I found a better one. The better one that you will not, some of you will not like, is by placing a smaller coil with an outside diameter of 4 millimeters. That means if you have Clapton coils, you are suddenly down to an inner diameter of 1.5 to 2 millimeters. That leaves you very little cotton, and suddenly you have turbulence to the sides. So simple round wire or a flat wire, 22 gauge flat wire, you can buy that now, I understand. So use that on this RDA, or start out with simple round cancel just to prove the concept. In order to avoid the stalemate below the coil, I went for a combined solution. I put my coil a bit up in order to assure the bottom of the coil is cooled down. Now we can draw an air stream into the coil, like so. I want that airstream to hit my coil at 4 o'clock and 8 o'clock. That means although you have a stalemate and turbulence, it will only be a small point and the air will hit each other and bend off, as we have seen in my other airflow videos. It will come up, it will join the stream, but you will also have flow this way. Not so much to start with, but as you have the low pressure above the coil, you will get a stream and you will get a bend in towards the center to cool the top of your coil, and this vapor will disappear up through your drip tip. Now you can play with this and move your coil up and down, but never ever put your coil so high that it misses the top of the two side air vents. You have to have flow, not turbulence, on the bottom of your coil on this RDA. And you have to have 1.5 millimeter on each side of your coil of free space. Because as I said, the center block is 7 by 7 millimeters. And by 1.5 millimeter on each side, you get a total of, yes, you guessed it, 21 square millimeters. And that is what this RDA is built to handle. If you go any bigger, put your coil where I first said you should put it, and forget all my stupid reasons for you doing so. So, how do I know I'm right this time? Well, that one's easy. I don't. But I'm a lot more informed than I was. I have much more footage and stills than I have showed you, so that gives me the upper hand. Not much, but slightly. And you also have the common geometry of the RDA that I understand properly now. And you also have proxy evidence. And in our case, that is heat. The more heat you have, of course, the more power you have. But if your vapor suddenly gets cooler, then you know your coils are in a much more happy place. And the less spatter you have, because the Aegis is not vaping violently off your coil, that's also an indication that you're in the right place, or better place. So why would you want to run your coils cooler? Well, it's just a racing car. The cooler you get your engine, the faster you can drive. The more horsepower you can take out of your engine. So if you're vapor chaser or cloud chaser, or if you like your vapor hot, you can still get hot vapor. That's not the problem. It's just turning the wattage up, or build with lower ohms. So you can still have all those things you are used to, but you can have a lot more of it, hell of a lot more of it. I'm running this Halcyon from Lost Vape Squonker only at 45 watts without any preheat function on. So this poor little 900 milliamp battery lasts actually a very long time. The flavor I get now is cool. I can run it hotter. I can ramp this up to well, let's try 70. That's a lot in this tiny RDA. With well, the airflow is no longer restricted like it used to be, so I get more air, but still on a 22 with a flat wire coil. Or if you use a single round cancel wire, you know 70 watts within this little space. That's hot. But well, let's try it. I have never done it before, so here goes. Much denser vapor. I don't like that at all. But even now, I can use the steel tip. The steel tip and the RDA does not get hot. The vapor is hot. I don't like that at all, because I lose all the high notes of the flavor. So let's back down to 45 and have a go again. Yes. And there it is again. Right in the middle. A ton of flavor and all the notes and everything is where it should be. So again, I have to say I'm truly sorry about my review where I told you about airflow. I was absolutely 100% wrong. But then again, I used a very big coil, 5.5 millimeters in diameter. So if you use that, I was actually right in placing it. You should place it high. You should place it so that you have exactly 1.5 millimeter of air gap on either side of it. Then you can build as big as you want. You might even consider reducing the gap to say 1.2 millimeters to get a better flow around and up closer to the top of your coil. I don't know, I haven't done the experiment yet. And I probably won't, because a flat wire coil with an outer diameter of 4 millimeters that fits snugly in the box or the square well, getting cool air from the bottom and stream up through the sides works perfectly for me. So I'm happy. And you buy some flat 22 gauge cancel, hammer your own, or use 24 gauge round cancel or 22 gauge round cancel, and yeah, just have fun with it. So, see you soon.